Well, you pick up any copy of the Trade Daily through the last week and he's staring at you out of the front of it. And I'm delighted to say that the man of the moment, Magic Marquand, for it is pronounced that way, I have just been told, joins me now. Tom, welcome and thanks for coming in what's an incredibly busy time for you. But when things are going this well, you don't mind all the attention, do you?
Yeah, exactly. I've never seen my picture so many times on a paper, but as you say, things are going great, and it certainly makes everything feel a little easier when it is. And
it is Marquand. We've established this now. Your surname gets pronounced 85 different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of them. As long as it comes out roughly in the right area, everyone knows what you're on about. But yeah, Marquand was how we were always sort of grown up and taught to be.
So let's take it back then. Let's rewind all the way back to when you were growing up and where that first connection, if any, with racing came, or was there much when you were little?
There wasn't any sort of mad connection with racing as such. It was horses. Like my grandma had a horse that sort of was for hunting and dressage, and auntie lived on a farm, and there was little bits, but living near Cheltenham was sort of probably the main catalyst between it all. And like going down there when school was on, I'd see my headmaster and he'd just walk by and go shh, and just carry on walking. You know, that was probably the thing that got me the most involved, and then obviously pony racing and pony club and things like that, it just sort of steadily built over the years.
I mean, had it not been for pony racing, would it have happened?
Definitely, it definitely wouldn't have happened as quickly. As to whether it would have happened, I'd like to think that I would have got involved somehow, but genuinely, without pony racing, I mean, there's not a hope that I'd have been champion apprentice on my first year riding. Like there would have been no way, because it puts the building blocks in place for sort of the start of a career, and then it gets involved with the right people. You know, I guess without pony racing, I'd have never met Holly. That means I'd have never met a dad who would have never got me a job at Richard Hannon's. I'd have never gone to America to Tom Morley before I rode, which was sort of vital experience. And you know, all these little things that accumulated to start off a career, none of it would have happened.
I mean, how much planning was it on your part, or was it just a series of happy accidents?
Yeah, I mean, genuinely probably sort of a bit of an accident with a lot of things. Like I ended up snicking a friend's pony that was 12'2", and he grew to 6 foot, Bertie Bent, and you know, they were very kind to let us use him, and for my first season pony racing, and then we bought one, and you know, it was kind of, everything just fell into place, and I seem to say that an awful lot with a lot of things, but genuinely, I don't know, I guess it was always self-driven, so it was probably more likely to fall into place when it's something that you want to do.
Did you always feel very comfortable on a horse or on a pony? Right
Yeah.
From the first
Yeah, I loved it. You know, Mum and Dad, we sort of went off for a couple of years on a boat, and they took us out of school, and my only condition for sort of accepting to go away was we have to ride a horse in every country and things like that. So, you know, from a young age, it was always at the forefront of my mind, and it was always something that was going to be part of my life, whether racing or just horses. Like it was, yeah, it was always sort of ingrained in me.
Who knows what will happen to a lot of families and the way they think about how they bring up their children after COVID and after lockdown, because it's forced a lot of people to think in a very different way. Your parents were thinking in a different way when they took you and your sister out on a boat for 2 years. Just tell me a little bit about that. How old were you?
Yeah, I was 11, 12, just finishing primary school, and my sister was 3 years older, so she came back to go straight into GCSEs, and it was more just Dad wasn't that happy with his job, and we'd always sailed, and we'd always had a boat, like nothing ridiculous, but just a small boat, go down to the coast, sail for the weekend, things like that. And you know, it was a great childhood, and only now do I realise how much of an incredible opportunity that was. Like it was amazing, and you know, as an 11-year-old, it completely went over my head, sort of what was going on. But so
it's 11 to 13.
Yeah.
And so you homeschooled presumably during that time.
Yeah, if you'd call it that. I didn't do an awful lot. I wasn't really that interested in it, but no. To be fair, I read a lot of books, and that was as far as I went. Amber, my sister.
I should say self-taught.
Yeah, self-taught. I like that. Amber, my sister, did a lot more because she's more sort of academically into all of that sort of thing than I would be. But yeah, I was running around with a spear gun and a scuba tank, just trying to shoot everything that I could. So, do you know what I mean?
Where did you go?
We started in England and went down, basically down the coast, France, Spain, Portugal, North Africa, back up, Spain, Italy, and obviously Greece, and finished up in Crete. So we literally just, if we liked somewhere, we stayed for a couple of weeks, couple of months. If we didn't, we just moved the next day and keep it going.
It sounds an amazing way of life. I mean, do you look back on it now and think it's given you a richness, a perspective, a hinterland that will be with you forever?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and it was probably one of the main things as well that helped. You know, jumping into racing at 16, it's it's not a straightforward world, and you know, a level of maturity has to sort of be reached fairly quickly. And I think that probably had me half a step in the right direction before I even begun, because I mean, how can you not mature when you're living on a boat for 2 years and meeting strangers and doing different things, going and seeing different places, instead of sat in school looking at a book and messing about and just flinging elastic bands at people. That's the reality, I think, more than anything.
You're selling it to me. And you mentioned your sister Amber, who's not involved in racing, but she's an academic, isn't she?
Yeah. I mean, she's actually just started a new job as a teaching assistant and loving it. So, you know, she's gone down a very different path, but you know, we get on well, and we had an incredible upbringing, and we were very lucky. So, yeah, it's not a bad way to start life.
So you start at Hannon's at 16? Just 16?
Yeah, 16. Walked out of school, went to Tom Morley, who you know very well,
I do.
For a month, because I had sort of that month between going to the racing school to be able to leave school.
And Tom trains in New York. Tom and his wife Maggie, who's a TV analyst for Naira, and they're great people. I know they looked after you a lot, and he follows your career on an almost daily basis, doesn't he?
Yeah, they were fantastic. I mean, genuinely, I flew over there not quite knowing what to expect, and they took me in as their child. I rode out in the morning with them, went racing with Tom, and obviously Maggie was doing all the TV bits, so it was a great experience. And again, like, just complete luck of the draw, everything fell into place. I found out about Tom through George Daly, who's his godfather, through pony racing, and it's amazing how everything worked. And yeah, again, just got lucky landing with Tom and Maggie, because they were absolutely brilliant. So
did that give you a bit more confidence when you came back to Richard Hannon's? As you said, a big yard, lots of horses, but not just that, lots of people, lots of young people trying to get on. So how do you go about trying to make yourself first among equals?
Yeah, definitely. Without doubt, it helped with that. I mean, I think when I was there must have been 7 or 8 apprentices between the 2 yards. So I guess at Everley, I think there was 3 of us, and the rest up at Heritage. But I mean, it's you know, it's a competitive environment. Like, you know, you're all young, you're all trying to get to the same place, and you know, I guess it's everyone's working hard because that's what you have to do. So, you know, doing things that make you stand out, I don't know, that's kind of what you have to do. And
how do you do that?
Work hard. I don't know. I mean, I was very lucky. I had Steve Knight down at Everley, who, you know, Grand National winning jockey, people like that. Yeah, you can only but have a lot of respect for, and having people like him on my side was huge.
But is it the way you carry yourself as much as the way you ride the horses?
Yeah, I think so. You know, being an apprentice is not just about riding the horses. You know, there was a lot of work in the yard, and you know, getting up early, mucking out, helping a head lass with feeding a yard, and little things like that, sweeping a barn in between lots, riding out of breakfast, you know, just little things that at the time seemed so insignificant, and that, well, that's what you do because you want to get somewhere. Looking back now, it's probably, you know, I don't know, was I working harder than anyone else? I'm not sure. Everyone was working hard, but you know, it must have worked in some manner.
Now, you were already going out with Holly at this point, weren't you?
Yeah, we were together quite young when we were pony racing, and she actually came to Richards about 7 or 8 months after me, because she'd had a spell at Dave Evans's for a year or two, and Richards was sort of the next step up the ladder for her as well. But she was up at Heritage and I was down at Everley, so there was still a work-life split at that point.
And so, can you remember the first time you met her when you were much younger?
Yeah, we pony raced together, and you know, it wasn't a bang meet. That was us. It was sort of, you know, we knew each other for a year or two. We ended up at the racing school together, doing pony racing courses and things like that. And it was, you know, because we were in the same area for pony racing, we were always around each other. So it was, yeah, I guess it gradually happened.
And so now she's got a career that is going from strength to strength. You've got a career that's going from strength to strength. How straightforward do you find it to manage your lives together, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, I think we probably both can't believe how well the last few years have worked out. I mean, take two 13-year-olds and get them to achieve their goals sort of within 6-7 years, 8 years is mental. But honestly, I guess because we've always been used to it, pony racing, it doesn't feel like anything's changed. Like, it's mad. So yeah, in our house, it's kind of, I don't know, it's just a normal household to us.
Yeah.
But
to what extent or how have you helped each other, do you think? Is it just that shared experience?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we don't really, we wouldn't go home and sit in front of replays and go, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. There's none of that. It's just our careers have built over the last few years, and I guess, it's been, I've found it amazing watching Holly the last 2 years in particular, because, she had a quiet start. Like, it took 2 or 3 years to get going and build up a bit of momentum, and then the last 2 years she's flown, and seeing the confidence difference and the difference in sort of our way of life together now, we're both busy, and having that success there's a large contrast, from things like, we lived in one of Richard's houses down at Everley, a bungalow, and on the yard, and I mean, what's that, 4 years ago now, we were able to sort of buy a house together in Hungerford, and it changes so much, but it feels so much the same.
But you're obviously able to detach yourself from the rigours of the sport when you shut the front door, which is very encouraging to hear, because you know jockeys who go home, stick the replay on and beat themselves up.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different. I wouldn't be able to do it. It's a 24/7 job at the best of times, and I think if you're going home and taking work home with you to sort of dangerously high intensity,
yeah,
there's no sustainability there, because you're just going to end up the whole time thinking about racing and stressed out. And I think we're very lucky in the fact we can go home and switch off.
Yeah, and because for all everyone says how nice you are, and I can vouch for the fact that you are a very nice human being, and for all everyone says how nice Holly is, you've got to have an edge, a determination to succeed at that level, to succeed at the elite level. So I suppose at some point you have to be able to leave it and say, not now.
Yeah, I think, that must be every walk of life. I mean, obviously we've not experienced anything different in the fact that we've always been jockeys and always wanted to do that, but, I'd well imagine sort of people high up in business, they don't go home and talk to their wives about what deal they just pulled in. It might get mentioned, or, but you wouldn't sit down at dinner and have a 2-hour conversation about what you've done in that day. And I think we're very much the same. Yes, racing gets talked about and mentioned, but it's not the sort of
be all and end all.
Yeah, it's not the only focus when we get home, which I think is essential.
But what you do have is, of course, you have the empathy.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, look, Holly had an incredible Saturday a few weeks ago, riding 5 winners at Windsor, and I had a bang average day, and that sort of levels it out. And equally yesterday, great day, and last Saturday I had a great day, and Holly probably didn't so much, but it's not. That's probably why I don't know, is that why sort of everything's happened the way it has? The fact that neither of us get too high, because you're constantly just levelling each other out without even thinking about it. I don't know, it must be part of the environment that we're in.
And you were saying that, 2 or 3 weeks ago, you were frustrated because things weren't really going quite the way you'd expected. We probably didn't notice.
No.
You did.
Yeah, very much so. But it probably went unnoticed, bar a couple of sort of high-profile seconds and whatnot, things not quite going to plan. But, I think it's as a sports person, as a jockey, I think it's very easy to focus on that day and that minute and sort of think things are going terribly. And actually, if you span out to a week, span out to a month, span out to a year, 2 years, the bigger picture tells such a different story to that particular minute or hour. And, as you say, I had those 2 weeks that were a bit sticky. And, it's very easy to just get zoned in on those 2 weeks, when actually if I went back sort of a month or 7-8 weeks, it would have told such a different story.
If I showed you your first winner now on Mikado at Kempton at the end of 2014, you look at yourself here, what would you think?
Yeah, I mean, Genuinely, I can't believe that was only 2014. It's crazy to think that wasn't even 6 years ago.
It's not very long ago.
It's not very long ago at all. And you know, that was sort of, I think, only maybe 15 rides in or something. And you know, pony racing and things like that got me to the point where my first winter I was able to look sensibly okay. You know, and yeah, to think that wasn't that long ago is crazy. And Facebook keeps reminding me every month, every week, where, you know, 5 years ago today I lost my £5 claim, £7 claim, £3 claim, whatever. And the steps, it's very easy to feel like you've been at it a long time, I think, and actually things like that just remind you, you know, I'm still relatively new to everything and new to the game, and to sort of just have a breather and think,
yeah,
you know, everything's going all right and pretty quick and pretty smooth, and there's time.
So when you race through that claim, when it goes so quickly, is there a point when you're barely 20 years old that you're thinking, well, have I gone through this too quickly?
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, it happens to everyone that sort of rides out their claim in a pretty short space of time. You get everyone, you can't do that, it won't happen, you've not built up enough connections, and when your claim's gone, you'll be done. And you know, in a way, I guess, yeah, it's a fear. But I was very lucky. I was at Richard Hannon's, a huge yard with lots of good horses. I had good people surrounding me, and genuinely, I don't think there was even a lull. I mean, on stats there might have been, I don't know, but it didn't feel like it. And that sort of year, I rode out my claim in, I think it was July, and nearly managed to be champion apprentice again. And Josie beat me by a good few winners in the end. But to have a season like that in the year that people said I might fail or would fail, it's I guess it was a confidence boost to then carry it through the winter and into next year. And genuinely, Richard sort of made that time of my life so easy, because, you know, while I was working very hard in the yard still, he was putting me on horses like Oh This Is Us. I know my first Channel 4 when it was like Nail up at York, or ITV, sorry, Nail up at York and things like that. You know, normal apprentices don't get opportunities like that, and you know, I count myself extremely lucky that I was getting those days in the saddle.
Oh This Is Us, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Smashing horse.
Oh, it's a legend. I've actually got to try and beat him today, which is a shame. But at Chelmsford, no, he was great. And this was genuinely one of my first sort of big moments. He was strongly fancied. I think he had a sensibly low weight. It was while he was still well handicapped. And you know, I got Eddie Greatrix upsize me, who was one of my best mates, and similarly doing incredibly well at the time. And to pull that off, yeah, it was fantastic. And to ride a big one like that for your boss is an extra buzz.
He's got a fella called Ryan Moore riding in this afternoon.
Yeah.
You might give him a few pointers.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's been a great horse. Luke Catton the other day had a ride on him, sort of Richard's, one of Richard's apprentices, and he's just been that great horse that everyone's been able to have a go on. He runs fantastic nearly every time. He doesn't let you down, and look, he's still going a few years on from that. I think I was a £3 claim when I rode him there. He gave me my first winner in Dubai, first listed winner. He's been a fantastic horse.
I mentioned Ryan, and you were talking in the Racing Post today about getting the mickey taken out of you by some of the senior riders for doing, you know, a lot of different media. You're on this programme today, but you know, that doesn't make you an exception particularly, but some of the more innovative work that you've been doing, that Kieran Fallon's been doing, that Oisin Murphy in particular has been doing, and you're all in the same sort of management as well. You believe that you've got a responsibility to the sport to do more of that? Yeah,
definitely. You know, times are changing. I don't think it's not just racing that's changed, it's the world. You know, social media age is taking over as to how everyone goes about their daily life. And I think, you know, racing as a sport, we've probably been labelled as quite backwards towards that side of it before, and I think it's only something that can be taken forward and carried with. Australia is one place that I really did notice that there's so much more of a media-savvy environment, and even with owners, because the syndicates are so important over there. You know, every time you get off a horse in a trial, a gallop, a race, you've got a video camera in front of you, you say what you think, you try and just keep people feeling involved, because I mean, that's what racing is, and it's become even more so relevant now than ever in England because not many owners are managing to go racing. If they are going racing, you know, they're probably not having that same feeling of being connected with jockeys and trainers and actually their horse. So ultimately, things like that, if it can bring new people in and keep people that are already in happy, it's just a no-brainer. And M3 Media have been doing such a great job at thinking of different content and new content that that can hopefully give people that sort of involvement and feeling of being connected.
You mentioned Australia. You appeared to be popular in Australia, but then you were also unpopular in Australia. I mean, they kind of love you, but they don't really want you back. It's a strange kind of a strange one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was so lucky down there. I went over straight after I lost my oh no, actually I hadn't lost my claim yet. I went over to David Hayes and Tom Dabney as an apprentice for a month. And that was courtesy of Sheikh Mansour, and that was all sorted out, and that was an incredible experience. I rode a couple of winners for David in the city and loved it. I was planning to go back there sort of a couple of winters later because I wanted to sort of keep the momentum up in England. I didn't want to go away, and Tom Ward, who was assistant to Richard at the time and obviously who I was working very closely with, was sort of adamant I had to go to Sydney and not back to Melbourne. I was kind of, I didn't really know, and he put me in touch with John O'Shea, who he was assistant to over there when he was with Godolphin, and genuinely the first 3 weeks I was thinking, what have I done? I was sat riding out every day early and not struggling to even get going at all, but we concentrated on the city rides, not going to sort of provincial and country, and I was kind of debating whether I go down to Melbourne and just say, done in Sydney, it's not working, I'll go to Melbourne and ride a bit for David and Tom, and then all of a sudden I rode a Saturday double for Coolmore for David and Tom and one for John, and it just exploded, and then obviously going back this year was just incredible.
And this year you're taking British horses, a horse you won on yesterday, a Dabe over there, and you're winning a whole load of Group 1s for William Haggis. I think this, and it's significant this, because the pandemic was already in full swing, if you like, and you were racing behind closed doors, and we spoke to you after this, and you were giving everybody here a massive boost. Yeah,
I mean, genuinely, I thought it was amazing the reception that it all got from sort of the wider racing world, not just Australia, because, as you say, it was the only thing that was happening. Like nowhere,
anywhere in the world, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. I think Hong Kong was the only other place that was racing, sort of on a daily basis, and it was great. I mean, how well sighted by William to spot these races for both Young Rascal and Adabe and take the initiative to take them down there. And I mean, timing and luck was on our side as to being there then. But even in saying that, if coronavirus hadn't have happened, racing carried on here, I'd have still been there and still that would have happened. Possibly it might not have got noticed as much because there'd have been sort of good racing. I think the Greenham wasn't long after that and things. But yeah, it was just well received and bit of luck.
I mean, the Aussies are saying you're bringing your strengths to Australia, but what did you pick up from them? What did you take back here?
A lot of things. I mean, it's very obvious our riding style is extremely different in Australia to the typical Australian riding style. But I mean, in saying that, their sort of tactical awareness over there is phenomenal. Genuinely, in the city, you miss half a beat and race over, gone. Yeah. You're at the back of the telly and on a horse that's actually sensibly sort of fancied or okay. So the racing is very sharp, and it's definitely done me the world of good going over there and spending time there, because whenever I come back I feel like a different person when I'm riding. Like, genuinely, just everything here just seems to fall right without even having to think about it.
So your awareness of pace is
exactly.
so much better.
Yeah, that's it. And people have gone over there plenty. I mean, James Doyle, William Buick, Ryan Moore, that they're world-class jockeys, and even they say you have to be so on the ball to be there, and you come back and notice it.
Let's talk about the last 2 weeks. It's been sensational. Great period of time for you. The St Ledger last weekend on Galileo Chrome. The circumstances surrounding the victory almost as extraordinary as the victory itself.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I was sat there sort of Thursday. I had a ride in the St Ledger on English King, thinking happy days. You know, he looked like that step up and trip were doing the world of good. then got to Friday morning, didn't have a ride in the race because he was going to France instead, because that was the more favourable race. So I said, I think, oh, God, right, I'm going to have to watch the Legend now and sit there and sort of, watch everyone else do it. And then next thing, we were at the races Friday, and obviously Shane Cross tested positive for coronavirus, and my agent Sash did a great job on getting onto it all pretty quickly. He spoke with Joseph, and I had a lot of people that helped out getting the ride. I know Kevin Blake was very quick to jump on it, and the same as Sally-Ann Grassick and Matt Chapman, and everyone was straight on to me. You have to ring him, and look, I can only thank Joseph so much and the owners for having me aboard, because there was plenty of people there that could have been aboard him, and equally the other horse in the Champagne Stakes as well, and they both had great chances. And to be on that list for someone like that to ride in the Classic is mind-blowing, and for it to have all come off, I mean, I know how hard that must have been for Shane Cross to have sort of experienced that, and I can only compare it to if English King had won the Derby, maybe. I dread to think how that would have felt inside. I spoke to him after, and fair play to him. He said he cheered him home and then just sat on the sofa and...
Amazing how this truncated season, this sort of short season, seems so long. You talk about not getting the ride on English King in the Derby. It feels like an eternity ago.
Yeah.
And it's all we talked about for about 2 weeks, the fact that you'd lost the ride. I mean, how quickly was that ancient history?
Yeah, quickly. I mean, if anything, I think it carried on a lot longer than I thought it would, because, it was kind of, well, yeah, I've lost the ride to one of the most famous and popular jockeys in the world. Yes, it was a disappointment, but I respected Bjorn and Ed's decision. Like, it was something that I just thought, oh, it's done, it's fine. And actually, it carried on a lot longer than I thought, and a big fuss was made out of it, even though...
Because it gave us all something to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
You know how the game works
Yeah,
now.
very true, yeah. But, I got lucky in that situation, getting aboard Khalifa Sat for Ahmed Al Sheikh and Andrew, finishing second, and then, equally in saying that, I've managed to get lucky again, which is pretty incredible.
Well, the Wheel of Fortune turned in your favour again yesterday, and I think this is a good way of rounding this off, Tom. I mean, I could talk for hours and hours, but how did you win the Ayr Gold Cup?
Yeah.
Because anyone who'd backed this horse, there were plenty of them, would have been tearing the ticket up at halfway.
Yeah, I mean...
We better just pick him out for anyone who... He's the yellow cap of Sheikh Ahmed, bobbing up and down with about... I think you've probably got about 5 horses behind you at this point.
Yeah, genuinely extremely impressed by this horse. I mean, physically, he is an absolute specimen. I mean, he's massive and certainly looks the part. And we went into Goodwood as favourite for the Stewards Cup, and I probably made the mistake in riding him a bit too positive myself. And William spoke about it after, and I wasn't going to make that mistake again. And that's where